So, welcome everybody to the relaunch of the Pharmaceutical and Life Sciences chapter with the SPP. I'm Charlotte Horder calling in from Germany, and I'm part of the central team. And yeah, we've got a brilliant session in store, so I think we'll dive straight in, and we can start with the next slide where we talk a little bit about the SPP, and then what we'll get going into with the agenda. So this, as I mentioned, is being recorded. All of our sessions get popped onto YouTube. So we have a channel, and you are all very much welcome to go there, see all of these different recordings that we have from the different chapter events, from World Sustainable Procurement Day, and we also encourage you to subscribe so you can hear about the newest videos. We really like, as this chat has already taken off, to hear your questions, your thoughts. SPP is all about being a peer-to-peer, for procurement, by procurement learning community. So your questions help other people learn, and we absolutely encourage you to bring them here in the chat, and also when we open up the microphones afterwards. Do please join us on LinkedIn. So each of our chapters, including this chapter, has a LinkedIn group. This is where you can connect with people, you can share thoughts and ideas and questions after this meeting has happened. So we would love to see you on there, and we'll be popping the chat in the chat lots of links as we go. And the important thing to know is SPP, as I said, for procurement, by procurement, but we have a big mission and a big goal in sight, and that is working towards 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. We are trying to build a community of 1 million procurement professionals and their allies. We know a lot of you also come from the sustainability functions in your companies, and we are bringing this community together to learn and speed up the basically making sustainable procurement the default. So helping supply chains across the world become more sustainable for people and for planet. So you are very, very welcome to join us. I'll also pop a link in where you can do that. And we ask as well for you to bring all of your friends and colleagues and your peers to join us as well. So, and that's what the pledge is all about, standing up to make change for people and planet across our procurement profession. So we are, as you can see as well from the chat, really, really global. We're very inclusive, and we celebrate that every day. You are very welcome to pop the language and speech captions on if English is not your mother tongue. And you will be hearing from one of our speakers today as well, a slightly different voice that I find if you give your ears a little moment, you'll be able to hear all of the wisdom and knowledge that she has to share just perfectly. But yeah, language and speech captions are there if you need them. So let's now move and take a look at the agenda. What's in store for you today? Okay, great. So your co-chairs, I will hand over. They can introduce themselves, and I know that we've got Hannah stepping in for Rob today from AstraZeneca, but I think it's nice when you introduce yourselves. This, as I mentioned, is the relaunch of the Pharma chapter. So we had some activities going on previously, which some of you may have been part of, but this is a fresh wind. There's lots in store, and it's really, really interactive and wants to get you involved as a community. So you're going to be hearing about two stories, two case studies from our two co-chair companies, Pfizer and AstraZeneca. And what this is all about is sharing best practices. So it's really, you'll see a really brief, clear overview on one page about case studies and real lived experience. And these sit in what we call the guide at SPP. And we're going to invite you to participate in this. So without that, without further ado, I will hand over let's go to Maria first. Here they are, our lovely co-chairs and presenters. So we have the lovely Maria, who is with Pfizer, and she will be talking you through the first case study. And then we've got the lovely Hannah, from AstraZeneca, who will be talking you through the second case study. She is colleagues with Rob Williams, who can't be here today, but he is our other co-chair. And there's a great team behind this session today, so thank you to you all. And I think, if I may, I'll hand over to you, Maria.
Sure, thank you. I hope everybody now please go to the previous slide. First of all, I would like to welcome everybody. Thank you for responding so numerous to our call to relaunch the journal chapter today, as well as introduce our best practice sharing initiative. Let us start with who we are. I am, as Charlotte said, I am Maria Terracina, Global Sustainable Sourcing Lead at Pfizer. I'm Italian. You will see that because I speak a lot with the ends. So you will be sure I am. I started my role last year and delighted to be the new co-chair of the Pharma chapter together with Rob, as I do strongly believe in the power of collaborative efforts for an healthier world. Let me give now the floor to Anna.
Hi everyone, great to be here today. So I'm Associate Director of Sustainable Procurement in Rob's team. Rob truly wishes he was here today sharing AstraZeneca's experience with you, but due to personal circumstances, he isn't, and I'm jumping in. My background, so obviously I'm at AstraZeneca. Previously, I was at Diageo within the sustainable procurement team as well. And before that, I was at the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, where I scaled the climate work and focused on Scope 3 decarbonisation strategy, launching several papers with members detailing how to incentivize supply chain decarbonisation. So I'm super excited to talk you through AstraZeneca's case study today. And now I think we can click on the link. We're going to be going to the link that's on this page to talk you through the website for this initiative in a little bit more detail.
Thank you. So what is the Pharma chapter about? The chapter is for us, as Charlotte said at the beginning, for procurement professionals who work in the pharma sector as a community and want to be ambassadors for climate actions. Let's take advantage of the SPP network to advance together towards our company's decarbonization targets and buy more sustainable products and services. It's about sharing our learnings, methodologies, strategies, awareness on upcoming regulations, and we will highly appreciate the contribution of all of you to have a diverse, engaging forum where every voice can be heard and understood and considered. As you can see, for now, as we have just launched the chapter, we are just the two of us, just the two co-chairs, Rob and myself. But please do not leave us alone. Let us know who would like to join to give your valuable contribution as team member. So please check, let us know in LinkedIn or join in team members and let us make our family larger in the Pharma chapter. To you, Anna.
Thank you. And just to highlight the scope, so the focus of this initiative is really on the categories specific to the sector, such as R&D clinical trials, medical services, and lab trials. And then you'll note, as explained already, that the chapter has recently been relaunched, and you'll be able to find about upcoming event details in the PowerPoint that we're about to go through in a moment. So let's jump back to the PowerPoint and we can get started sharing the case studies.
Perfect, thank you. So if we want to, let's say, to launch this initiative that we called We Want to Hear From You, we thought that as first we will start with ourselves sharing our own stories. You're going to see quite a a large deck with a lot of text inside. I don't want to fill you asleep with that. I'm not going to read all of that. You're going to receive it. You're going to receive the full deck, so you will have the time to read, and it will be also published in the guide, which is the web page of SPP. What I want to do with you today is just focus on a couple of highlights. If you can go to the next slide, please. So, how have we been driving decarbonization at Pfizer? I would like to start with some context. As maybe the majority of you on the line, our Scope 3 emissions amount to approximately 80% of Pfizer's total emissions, the greatest majority being generated by our suppliers and CMOs producing goods and services for us. This is why building and sustaining a successful net zero engagement program is so critical for us that we decided to publicly commit to it. In 2021, we have set ambitious near-term engagement targets validated by the Science Based Target Initiatives, aiming for 64% of our suppliers by spend to set science-aligned goals by 2025. At that time, in 2021, we made an internal calculation. We were around 10%. This looked to be mission impossible. However, thanks to our suppliers and CMOs who committed to join our same journey, who are mostly on our call today, and still thank you for that. Since then, we climbed the mountain. In 2022, we achieved 29%. In 2023, we went up to 51. And happy to share with you that internally we tracked our semester 1 2024 numbers, and we have reached 61%, so that we aim to achieve the 64% goals that are entitled to be by 2025, 1 year before, thus anticipating by 1 year the SBTI goals. So if this is something mission impossible made possible, you might ask, how did you do that? How did you make it possible? And this is the second point in the ballot: empowering the procurement colleagues. For the benefit of this community, I want to share our lesson learned. We had our first greenhouse gas targets validated by SBTI in 2015, and initially we focused on collecting information on our suppliers' environmental targets and performance through a survey administered by a third party. The type of information requested was not fully defined at that time. Honestly, supplier engagement was not that strong, and resulting reporting practices happened to be inconsistent. We started our suppliers engagement program in 2021, and I can tell you, the real game changer happened in 2022 when 1 to 2 procurement representatives by material category, as well as external supply net zero program lead, volunteered to be and to become net zero champions, joining the supplier impact workstream, which I lead today, and facilitating the connection and consistency of goals and actions across the entire procurement and external supply organizations. I want to recognize and thank that it was the active engagement and passion of the net zero champions to make the bulk of the success story of Pfizer today. So thanks to all the net zero champions, and I hope a couple of them are on the line, and I would like to ask you a round of applause to them all. Because centrally, you can do whatever fabulous goals and actions you try to do, but if there are not colleagues on the ground that talk to their own organizations, it will not fly. So if you ask us which are the ingredients of Pfizer program and success story, this is first. Third point, in 2021, we introduced our first net zero supplier engagement maturity model that segments supplier into one of 5 levels based on their maturity in environmental sustainability commitments, from 1 being stored for suppliers who have not started their journey yet, to 5 who are the suppliers who are SBTi approved. The power of the model was proven by having integrated it as one of the suppliers' selection criteria, as well as the supplier relationship management program, where talking with our suppliers and sharing with them what was most valuable to Pfizer, we have been incentivizing our suppliers to mirror our ambitions and to make year-over-year procurements in improvements in their journey. For less mature suppliers, we launched the Commitment Letter Initiative. I want to mention this because this was extremely important for us as well. It's a pledge through which suppliers have committed to establish a greenhouse gas emissions baseline and set their targets in their scope 1 and 2 by 2025. This is something that we didn't do for us. We did it for the suppliers, because when a lead of a company commits and sign, even if not legally binding, but sign a letter saying, I will commit to that, it means that they will provide resources in making an action plan to make sure that this would have happened. And interesting enough, we got more than 200 letters signed, and as of the end of last year, we have mobilized all these suppliers through call to action meetings, promoting to move from a sole Pfizer commitment to the SBTi commitment, which boosted our latest results to the 61, as I mentioned. This year, we have also enhanced the maturity model with the 2.1 version, including the collection of the greenhouse gas data directly from our more mature suppliers, thus moving towards our longer term targets and strategy towards net zero. Last but not least, since 2021, we hosted 3 net zero summits, with increasing participations and interest from our suppliers to confirm the reciprocal engagement and collaboration towards the common goal. Last but not least, it's all about leveraging industry network. This is where we are here now. SPP, PSCI, Energize. Nobody can play solo in decarbonization. Let's all, and this is what Pfizer has done, and this is where we are today, because we have highly leveraged and continue to do on the collective efforts of all our peers and suppliers to join the forces of everybody to reach all together net zero. This is Pfizer's story. I now pass the lead to Anna to share the AstraZeneca one. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So thank you so much for sharing that for Pfizer's story. It's great to hear. And now for AstraZeneca, I think it's fair to say that there are certainly some parallels. Yeah, a fantastic case study, really. So there are some really clear parallels. Sorry, just getting a little bit of background noise. So yeah, fair to say that there are some parallels between Pfizer's and AstraZeneca's story. Given that we're in the same sector, we have many of the same challenges. On this slide, you can also see our very detailed case study, which will be shared after this presentation. You'll receive the deck. I'm not going to read all of that word for word. If we could jump to the next slide, I'll just talk through some of the key success indicators that I think are really important to share with those on the call, and how we've achieved what we have so far today. So AstraZeneca, so we aim to halve our entire value chain footprint by 2030. We're well on the way to a 90% reduction by 2045 from a 2019 baseline. And by 2030, we will become carbon negative for all residual emissions. So on the point of challenges, a key point that I want to land here is that resilience is very much needed. It's fair to say that challenges such as data, supplier data, are a challenge for everyone. And often the path to securing data or those challenges across sustainability, as well as identifying the right people that should be involved in tasks such as data gathering from the company side as well as the supply side, can be unclear initially. And of course, it would be because we haven't done any of this before, or at least we hadn't. So we found that finding, identifying, persuading the right people on the company side is critical. And often initially that person might not think they should be responsible. They might not have a decarbonisation role, and they might not see that connection. And initially that can be demoralizing. And so what we've done is we've motivated, we've injected energy, positivity, and highlighted why this is such a key thing to do, especially within procurement, because there's huge value recognized in achieving sustainability and decarbonisation reductions across the company. So of course, that resilience point is key. We can't get held up on the basics. So securing data is obviously kind of one of the initial steps of a sustainability decarbonisation journey. And data is never going to be perfect. And so starting with imperfect data and iterating over time to improve that data is the way to go. So not letting perfect be the enemy of good. So what we've done, so pushing through those initial high barriers to entry for data gathering has meant that we're now collecting data from 4,000 suppliers. And that didn't come easily. And we managed to persuade stakeholders within the business and externally to see past that imperfect data, because really we don't have the time to waste. So resilience is key. Final point, there are many people that will push back along the journey as well and say no, but standing strong and explaining why actions are important will mean no matter how slow progress feels to you, you are making it. Next point, getting started is the hardest part. Leverage tools and tactics that will make it easier for you. So there are many tasks that need to be done when creating and implementing a decarbonisation strategy from a sustainable procurement lens as well. It can be easy to get overwhelmed with the noise and the kind of plethora of tools that we see available to businesses. What we decided to do, a key tool for us, was SBTI. So we leveraged the SBTI Science-Based Target Initiative by asking our suppliers to commit to decarbonisation and by publicly setting a science-based target. We felt this was really important because it would provide us with the assurance that they were on the same journey as us, much like Pfizer shares, they're on the same journey as us, and they have that Scope 3 commitment, the reduction to reduce our assurance to reduce our Scope 3, and that they are on the same journey as us. So SBTI is such a definitive action suppliers can take to be on the journey. We were one of the first companies to set SBTI, so we're not just kind of requesting this without having done it ourselves. We've often been one of the first companies to talk to suppliers about data and about decarbonisation. To begin with, again, that was really difficult, but it's starting to get a lot quicker as SBTI becomes a lot more widely recognised. And today we have over 1,000 suppliers now committed to climate action via SBTI. And actually 1 in 8 of all companies in the SBTI registry are suppliers to AstraZeneca. So I think this really demonstrates the progress that we've made and is one of our key success factors for sure. So another tactic which just kind of facilitated that accelerated supply sign up is that our CPO actually sent a letter to all of our suppliers asking them to sign up and just showcasing that AstraZeneca is very, very committed to decarbonisation. It's also been embedded into the KPIs across procurement scorecards. So we have requirements that 95% of our spend will be with suppliers that have SBTI by the end of 2025. So not long to go there. It's really highlighted that it's a priority for AstraZeneca. So next, internal stakeholder endorsement and support is critical to success. Pascal, our CEO, is very vocal about our carbon reduction ambitions, and that has helped us internally as well as externally. So from a procurement point, it's helped the team kind of point back to the fact that the CEO is making this a priority. It's got the board support. It's not just kind of procurement working in silo, it's the whole company that's motivated by this. And then to ensure that action is set and followed, our C-suite also have scope 1 and 2 decarbonisation targets as part of their long-term incentives plan. So this is, of course, very helpful and helps to drive action and get that needle moving. A key message from Rob and what is said within our team as well often is that sustainability must become everyone's business and everyone's role. And as procurement, we also need the rest of the business to be writing their requirements and thinking about sustainability, from product design to not flying as much. And so, yeah, as procurement, we take accountability, but then we'll push back and push up to the rest of the business as well to make sure that we're all accountable. Our CPO is very supportive and has actually embedded decarbonisation in the procurement strategy for the next 3 years, and then is looking at carbon, just kind of make sure that we're looking at carbon reduction, not just signing up to things and not doing the decarbonisation. And so lastly, capability building is key. So supplier engagement strategy should not be led purely by procurement. Things move a lot faster when there's a dedicated sustainable procurement team within procurement that can speak procurement language as well as sustainability and translate sustainability language to guide and empower the rest of procurement. And in particular, much like Pfizer, we have champions, so really empowering the sustainable procurement champions. So our sustainability SMEs work within sustainable procurement, work closely with a team of 20 procurement champions. And those procurement champions have active roles within procurement, be it category managers, and they lean into the topic of sustainability. And they're really, really important because that upskilling and attention that they get, they cascade it across the rest of procurement. Having a broad range of SMEs in sustainability is also helpful if you can, because obviously the nuances and technical details within sustainability are very broad, and so ensuring that you can cover that breadth of sustainability topics and get that upskilling shared across the rest of procurement is helpful. So sustainable procurement is also very embedded and kind of working closely with the category teams and hosting regular clinics and sharing regular communications and keeping them up to date. So we have clinics once a week that we host with the rest of procurement. So they're drop-in sessions. So if people have queries or questions or active challenges, we work as a team to solve those together. So it's that constant upskilling. We really work hard to not overburden our suppliers, which can be really, really tricky, but we're very mindful of it and actively working on it. We make sure that we have resources available to our suppliers to help them on their journey. So it's not all just us kind of making requirements. The key resources that we participate in, we host conferences, we co-convene with PSCI on sector events. We have the Energize initiative with 20 pharma companies educating all of their suppliers on energy and enabling more renewable energy to be bought, just to name a few. So those are my 4 key success indicators and recommendations to all of you on the call. And I think we'll move now to the next slide. And I look forward to your Q&As at the end as well. So over to you, Maria.
Did I unmute myself? Yeah.
Yes.
So let's finally come to the most interesting part for you, which is your active engagement. Actually, I want to share that a recurrent feedback we got and we get regularly from our suppliers, and even in our Net Zero Summit, Supplier Summit, was lovely to hear from you. But we would welcome the opportunity to share our initiatives as well, to find common ground and understand if there are opportunities of collaboration. And we heard you, and here we are today. You inspired us, and that's why we wanted to start and relaunch the chapter with this initiative, where we would highly encourage you all to share any initiative you are working on. Later on, Anna will share you more about the criteria, which are the topics you can share, which is almost anything. And the main reason is that we want to learn one another. We would like to be each other a source of inspiration, to consider collaboration opportunities, but also earn recognition. Why not? The shortlisted will have the opportunity to present their story in the December session of SPP. How to do that? Very, very easy. You're going to use a certain template that we are going to share with you. It's the next slide. It's exactly the same template we used for our story, and you will need to respond to certain specific questions and send your guys' case study to Charlotte at the email that you see impressed here. Of course, we are going to share this deck with you, so you're going to get the email address with you. So can you go to next slide, please? So you're going to see this is a very easy and to use template. The request is we would like you to put the logo in the top, the picture of the one who is writing the document, and then just respond to the questions. Is it likely to do these are success factors? What was the outcome, and etc. This is going to be 1 page, and in 1 page, please tell us your story. We look forward hearing from all of you, if possible, what you are doing for us to understand which are the beautiful things that each one of us is doing to really join our forces. Before I move back to Anna, I would like also to steal another second the microphone and use this opportunity to mention that the same best practices coming from our Pfizer suppliers and CMOs will be also used for a Pfizer recognition program which is running in parallel. So with 1 case study, you're going to have the opportunity to participate, to do events and 2 opportunities of showing up. Back to you, Anna.
Thanks so much, Maria. So let's move to the next slide.
Maybe next, because this was just out.
Thank you. Okay, so in terms of the case studies, what should you be looking to include and kind of highlighting most in them? So the evaluation criteria we'll be focusing on will be split like this. So 50% will focus on sustainability, and that will include topics across greenhouse gas emission reduction, environmental impact, such as water usage, circularity, biodiversity, and then also social impact. So thinking about social equity, economic impact. And then on the right-hand side, I'll just draw your attention to some other criteria. So there'll be innovation and scalability. So is this something that can be helpful to other companies? Is it a case study that can be reapplied? Is it creative? Thinking about stakeholder engagement and collaboration. And then just lastly, organizational impact. So alignment with goals. Does the project align with sustainability targets and public goals of your organization? And then moving on to the next slide, just to highlight here the project timeline and kind of key milestones. So obviously we've had the kickoff event today. There'll be a deadline of Friday, October the 11th, the best practice submission deadline. So that case study that we'd love you to send back to us, which we're really excited to see, would be by 11th of October. We'll be reviewing those, and then we'll be sharing the outcome, the best practice outcome, on the 11th of November. And then finally, we'll move to awarding participants for the presentation and the presentation on December the 10th. So moving to the next slide, Q&A. So if you have any burning questions for Maria, myself, or the Sustainable Procurement Pledge team, then now is your chance. Feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself, raise your hand. Many options available if you have questions.
Don't be scared. Please ask.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there are many kind of queries around what we've shared today. Okay, we have Fred. Fred is brave.
Fred, who is the brave one? Thank you.
Yeah. So Fred Zarko from Pfizer. I have the privilege of working with Maria, and pleasure to meet the rest of the folks on the phone. First and foremost, thank you for putting this together. I see we have, I think, 199. It was 200. It dipped back down. 199 people. This is a pretty new space for procurement to really not just support, but actually lead in the organization. So, from a support of, we have this need, please do this, kind of from strategy to tactics to more of a leadership position. What is each of your views in terms of what keeps you up at night in terms of this program, in terms of meeting our commitments, and what excites you the most as leaders within your respective organizations?
Okay, if I go next, what excites me the most is having the opportunity to start any initiatives for many suppliers and peers to consider to work together. For me, what is most important is collaboration. And having the opportunity to have a context like SPP that joins the procurement professionals of any type of companies is amazing, because we have the opportunity to not just to speak and to say what we're doing, but to hear and learn from everybody and really collaborate together. To me, this is the real chance, and which is not working maybe as pharma companies have done in the past or in other cases. Decarbonization is really the opportunity of working together, which is what I would love to consider in terms of leading as well. So this would be my takeaway on that. To you, Anna.
Sure. So I think in terms of excitement, and I'll come to what keeps me up at night too, but in terms of excitement, I feel like this is a new stage of capitalism, to be honest. So I think that we are seeing companies that had very transactional relationships previously have be connected finally and communicate on the realities of their supply chains. And I think, as Maria said, there's a huge opportunity here for collaboration. There's a huge opportunity for innovation. There's so much that needs to be done. But actually, we can see from this call, there is high engagement. We're working together, and that there is hope ultimately. I think in terms of what keeps me up at night, it is linked to that. Is I see that we're going through kind of an innovation curve of massive change, to your point on kind of procurement leading now, and we see a range of tools available to companies that they can adopt and implement within their companies. And I think that transition that is quite messy, when we think about how we collect data, finding out what works best for our suppliers, not overburdening suppliers with requests, but still keeping the needle moving and working together, finding that balance. Thank you for your question.
I see there is Paul asking a question. Please, you want to unmute yourself and ask. You might be on mute.
Oh, we can't hear you, Paul. We can see that you're not on mute, but we can't hear you.
Maybe can you write your point, Paul?
Yeah, Paul, maybe if you pop it in the chat, and actually there's lots of questions in the chat. I see that Rodriguez, or Daniel, sorry, you have your hand up as well. So maybe let's hop to you. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Maria Hanna, for sharing your experiences. I'm Daniel Rodriguez, Director of Procurement and Supply Management at PAHO. So PAHO is an organization which assists 42 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean to access your products, the pharmaceuticals, vaccines, syringes, antiretrovirals, and so on. So we know the pharmaceutical market is highly concentrated from Indian manufacturers. So I was wondering, what are the platforms to foster global collaboration? Like it seems like multinational companies are ahead of the game on sustainability. So what global efforts or platforms are there or could be developed in order to exchange those experiences with Indian manufacturers? So this is a global effort, and as you said, we need global collaboration. So I was wondering on that opportunity, if it exists or should be developed. Over.
So I think that there are a couple of existing already. For example, we are both Astra and Pfizer, as many as other big pharma companies, are part of Energize, which is a collection, which is an opportunity to for any type of supplier, including the Indian, China, and anyone who maybe has less ease to have access to renewable energy, for example, to join their forces to understand what are the opportunities of renewable energy, for example. And this is a way where the smaller suppliers or the suppliers living in places in the world where maybe renewable energy is less accessible can join their forces and learn how to do and have access, for example, to renewable energies opportunities. And there is also Activate. There are other ways where we give the opportunities and CMOs and suppliers the opportunity to learn how to set their baseline. So there's PSCI, there are a lot of platforms and opportunities all across the industry we can leverage on for everybody, not just for Indian, but for all the countries, including India, of course, to collaborate, making sure that, of course, they can understand what is in the more mature countries and learn from there and leverage the power of collaboration. I can share with you all the details in writing if you want to give you the links to all these initiatives. Hope this helps.
And I would add as well that, I think the Sustainable Procurement Pledge is a great platform. It depends what kind of exchange you're looking for. Another platform I think Energize mentioned is a fantastic means as well. The Climate Drive by WBCSD is a platform that also shares case studies and is evolving, hopefully, to have some sort of communication exchange on in the future between companies. So there is just a plethora. I'd encourage you to lean into initiatives like this and others to engage and collaborate.
I see another hand up. I can't see the name, but I see there are.
We go to Vladislav. You are next. Kathy, you popped something in the chat, but you've got your hand up. Vladislav,
I did earlier. Can you hear me okay?
We hear you.
All right. Okay. So I'm multitasking and cooking, so I'll be quick. First, the context. I'm head of net zero of a major IT company called Entity Data, and I'm wearing two hats while I'm following the discussion. One is working with my CPO, and we've engaged already, and we started this program. Is how do we start this procurement engagement across the supply chain? And believe me, ours is just as complicated and challenging as yours in the IT world. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is, as a supplier to most of the companies on this call, how do I differentiate? In my honest opinion, submitting an SBTI goal, getting this validated, putting this on the website is the easy bit. And this is what seems to be measured currently, or maybe you've got your CDP supply chain engagement surveys and you get these measures there. Great. This is all output metrics in my view. Are there examples that you can share? Maybe this in the use case of impact and outcome-based metrics, and would that differentiate, and to what kind of weighting does that have in your procurement cycle when you're working with a company like ours, trying to showcase that we not only talk the talk, but we walk the walk, and maybe even faster than most. So these are the questions that are in my mind.
So maybe I'll respond to the second question. So in terms of assessing impact, it's not an easy thing to do, and a lot of the tools available are set up to sort of, they're more accountability tools. So have you set a target? Progress tracking is much harder. So the way we do it at AstraZeneca is our category managers collect information from suppliers, priority suppliers, understanding the initiatives that they have in place. So we have these active conversations where we're understanding what are the carbon reductions that have actually happened already within that company, and what are the plans in future to make sure those plans are happening. Another way to track progress is through CDP supply chain, so collecting company carbon reductions, but then also initiatives like Manufacture 2030, where we collect more kind of product level emissions to understand the emissions that are related to our company, if they've been kind of reduced over time and if that progress is tracking. And then to your first point, in terms of establishing this within procurement, I think governance is a really hard task, and I think it has to be top down in this instance, making sure that you have support of C-suite and board to really cascade that and make sure that you have buy-in across the company. Over to you, Maria. I'm sure you've got some views on this.
Yeah, but I'll be fast because I'm just conscious of the time. So one of the ways we are measuring actually is that we are moving from methodologies which was only spend-based to the actual data-based. So we are starting collecting real data from our greenhouse gas emissions, data directly from our suppliers in a tool and called Salesforce Net Zero Cloud. And via then we are assessing our baseline. And from then the intention is to track it year over year. And we are now running a campaign of data collection to our top 400 suppliers, for example. And the plan is to take it from there and track the progresses with the goal and the aim that together, working together some maybe emission reduction initiatives, we hope to see these data reducing year over year. So of course there are ways this is a way to track a real KPI, which is actually decarbonization. I'm just conscious of the time, maybe we can have just another question or two, because there were other, I guess, couple of slides to close with, and a poll at the end. I would like not to forget. What's next? I don't know.
Jeff, maybe you want to jump in.
Thank you. Great forum, and I'm so happy that it's here. So I yesterday I just returned from the Transportation Economics Summit, in the U.S. I was a panelist I was a last session panelist on Tuesday, I listened the entire time, and there was no mention of ESG. There was no mention of sustainability whatsoever, except in the carrier panel. They had 3 carriers, truckload carriers, and we're a service provider in that space. When asked, what are these companies doing with regard to sustainability, one person asked, and this was an executive, I'm not sure what ESG is, so I'm not sure we're doing anything with it. But we have been looking at this marketplace for a long time, and we view it as pulling various levers, right? The first one, the easiest one, if you can find it, and they are out there, but it's rare, EV, right? That's no brainer. Okay, there's a value to that you can deduce from scope 3 emissions. Then, of course, in the U.S., there's an EPA Smart Way program, right? And in utilization of those carriers, using cleaner vehicles, and you can begin to reduce and measure the reduction. But we just saw, and I wanted to ask this group, we just saw maybe 3 weeks ago, August 15th-ish, Bill Gates and others, were happy to announce the Carbon Removal Standards Initiative. And that, a lot of companies have been unwilling, let's say, to look at, is there a way to reduce carbon as one of the ways that we can get to where we're going? And I guess I want to know what this group early thinking is in there, because even, we work with a lot of the analysts studying the freight transportation market in the US. And I have to say that it will take years for us, many years for us, to begin to replace the fleet that we have. And trucking is maybe not even the dirtiest of the forms of transportation. So the question, to me, I feel as if it's a mandatory that the carbon removal is part of the dialogue, especially when it comes to scope 3 emissions regarding freight transportation. So curious, is that landing with this organization, with this group yet? And what is your thinking moving forward to practically reach these goals?
So I think it's a great question. It's also a very difficult question, and that there's debate within sustainability teams happening within all companies at the moment. Speaking on behalf of AstraZeneca, our priority is carbon reduction. It's carbon reduction, and that is in line with SBTi. But you may know that the SBTi has ongoing discussions around scope 3 reduction and the inclusion of carbon offsets, removals, and their role to play there. For every company, there will be residual emissions of around 10%, and that's acknowledged. The offsets or removals might be used for that. But I think it's important that right now the conversation acknowledges the innovation that's happening, but focuses on carbon reduction as a priority, as well as that innovation that's running alongside for carbon removals.
Thank you. And I think it was interesting also to hear that there are a couple of leads who don't even know what ESG is. I can say that from our experience, the commitment from the top, and I think it is both the case of Astra and Pfizer, was key and is key, because this is one of the highest company commitments from our side, and it is fundamental that it comes from the top to understand that this is a real priority and a goal even in our targets, and to embed this into the company culture so that everybody, whatever is the level, starts to understand and to breathe sustainability in everything we do. But clearly, if this is not something motivated and inspired by the leaders, I understand that for some companies it can become harder. So thank you for what you're doing. I would say Charlotte, or I don't know whoever is running the slides. Let's move to the next page, because I believe, and thank you everybody for your questions. It would be lovely to continue, but I just do realize that we have just a couple of minutes left, and we would like to close with a poll listening from you. So first of all, just a quick remember, and I have been so interested in hearing so many different questions from you all, but for some reason no specific question on the initiative itself. I hope that this means that everything is clear, and that in case it will be not, please always feel free to reach out to ourselves in LinkedIn or whatever, to Charlotte, to ensure that all is understood. But as we said, pretty easy. Please just fill in your story within the template and send it via email no later than October the 11th. Also, I would like to publicize and let everybody know that our next event will be next month on October the 9th, 2 p.m. European time, Central European time, 8 a.m. from East, and it will be about EUDR. So I know that there is this upcoming regulation. We would like to understand what's in for us as pharma companies and as procurement professionals. So we are going to have this top interesting meeting already planned. Please block your calendar, and the opportunity to register will arrive very soon. Also, something else that we would like to do is, please, we would like to launch a poll now. First, are you going just to let us keep the event and the initiative out? There is a poll that we are going to launch now. Do you have a story to share? Do you plan to share your story and to submit it within the next month? Charlotte, I would love if you could put the poll together so that the suppliers who are and people who are still on the line and to realize they were there just on time can still apply to it. And also, even in the chat and later on, we will keep it live for a bit. We would like to love and learn from you what would be interesting for you to discuss about in the upcoming events, so that we can build our agenda for 2025, not just according to what we would think it would be interesting, but merely hearing back from you. So please add in the chat what would you like to hear and discuss about. We can have professionals. You can also suggest yourself if you're a subject matter expert on any specific element. Please let us know, and we can potentially align on the opportunity for you to jump in and share with us whatever we believe the community is interested in. I believe we are just on time. For some reason, maybe that we couldn't do the poll, so here also, love to hear also via in the chat. Let's keep the community alive, either in LinkedIn or in the chat. Please let us know if you plan to submit your story, and good luck with the opportunity to be selected for the recognition element. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks for staying with us.
Thank you
Thanks very
so
much,
much,
all.
Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Hannah. It was an absolutely fantastic session, and all of you and your brilliant questions. Thank you so much. I apologise that the poll maybe didn't work for everybody, but I do see that we've got quite a few responses. Lots of you need to think about it, but don't be shy. Do definitely send your case studies. There's so much learning to be had, and so please do share them with us. And we want to celebrate your stories as well. So thank you ever so much, and bye-bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks all. See you.
Thank you. Bye.